Developing right now on Morning News Now, a defiant deposition from Hillary Clinton in the investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a tense 6-hour closed-door testimony, the former First Lady and former Secretary of State telling lawmakers she'd never met Epstein and criticizing Republicans for how they've handled the case. Now her husband, former President Bill Clinton, whose photos and name have appeared many times in the Epstein files, preparing to give his own testimony today.
I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. The vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to.
We will bring you the very latest in the case. Also this morning, controversy on campus. Columbia University accusing Homeland Security agents of misrepresenting themselves to arrest a student. That student's arrest sparking big protests across campus, just as New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani meets with President Trump at the White House. We'll have more on the fallout and what federal officials are saying. Plus, a new clue in the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. Newly released Ring camera video showing a car near Guthrie's Arizona home from the night she disappeared. We'll take a closer look as the investigation enters a new phase. And dramatic developments in the bidding war over Warner Brothers' Discovery as Paramount appears to take the lead. Now Netflix says it won't be upping its offer. We're going to break down what happens next and how the outcome could have an impact far beyond Hollywood. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off. We begin this hour with the ongoing investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Today, former President Bill Clinton is set to testify before a House Oversight Committee. It's part of their investigation into the late sex offender. Yesterday, his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, testified to the same lawmakers for hours. The big headline: she says she has no information about Epstein. NBC News Washington reporter Alice Barr joins us with the details. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The testimony is not happening here on Capitol Hill, with members of Congress traveling to New York for both depositions, with a long list of questions for the former president today. In a first-of-its-kind move today, former President Bill Clinton set to answer questions from lawmakers under subpoena in the House Oversight Committee's Jeffrey Epstein investigation. The committee chair promising a longer deposition today.
We have a lot more questions for Bill Clinton
than the 6 hours former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton sat for on Thursday.
I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance.
Neither Clinton has been accused of wrongdoing, but the questioning comes after former President Clinton's photo and name appeared multiple times in the Justice Department's released Epstein files. The former president has said he cut ties with Epstein before learning of any of his crimes.
I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light.
Democrats saying Hillary Clinton answered openly, as Republicans assert they at times
weren't satisfied with answers.
Democrats now arguing the committee has set a new precedent
about talking to presidents and former presidents. And we're demanding immediately that we ask President Trump to testify.
Republicans making that appear unlikely.
President Trump has answered hundreds, if not thousands, of questions from you all about Epstein.
As the Epstein controversy hits a new marker today. And the committee chair said one thing he's seeking from former President Clinton is insight into how Epstein managed to surround himself with such powerful people. The Clintons wanted their depositions to be open to the public and the media, and the chair has promised to release transcripts and videos as soon as possible. Joe?
Alice, I know Hillary Clinton's deposition was briefly interrupted yesterday. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a closed hearing, but early on it was briefly derailed when Congresswoman Lauren Boebert sent photos to conservative influencer Benny Johnson, who posted them widely. The deposition resumed, and Boebert said that she was not reprimanded. Joe.
All right, Alice, thank you so much. We are getting new information about the people on board the boat that was involved in a deadly shootout with Cuban border troops on Wednesday. Cuban authorities say 4 people were killed and 6 were injured in what they say was a, quote, infiltration with terrorist purposes. They said all the people on board were Cuban residents of the U.S., but 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News that American citizens were among the passengers. NBC News reporter Ed Augustin joins us now from Havana with the latest. So, Ed, tell us more about what NBC is learning from these U.S. officials about these Americans and what happened to them.
Good morning, Joe. U.S. officials have told NBC News that 2 of the people that were on that boat Wednesday morning might have been Cuban-born, but they were U.S. citizens. And one of them still is, because from what we've learned, 1 of those U.S. citizens was killed in the shootout, 4 killed. Another one is injured and currently receiving medical care in Cuban hospitals. Once again, 4 killed, 6 injured in what was initially thought to be a speedboat, but now we discovered it was actually a fishing boat that appears to have been stolen, that infiltrated Cuban waters, and the shootout, according to Cuban authorities, happened 1 mile from Cuban shores.
Ed, we're also learning a bit more from NBC News sources about some of the people detained, their affiliations with an anti-Castro group. What can you tell us about that? Yeah,
there are lots of fringe anti-Castro groups in Florida, more broadly, and this goes way back, ever since the 1959 revolution. You know, the 1959 revolution was an armed struggle. It was a violent overthrow of a violent dictatorship, but violence was the means by which state power shifted. And so for a long time in Miami, throughout the generations, there have been people committed to armed struggle, overthrowing what they see as a illegitimate regime here that should be overthrown by force. And yesterday, the president of the Cuban Republican Party, which is a political organization based in Miami, said that one of the dead was a member of that party. Now, he said the Cuban Republican Party did not condone and was not involved in the armed infiltration, but he did confirm himself that he is one of the members. I think it's worth pointing out to viewers as well, you've got to kind of put this in historical context. There is a political force in Miami that does call for violent overthrow of the Cuban government. They have done since the 1960s, and they continue to believe in that today. And Cuban claims that this was an armed incursion seem to be backed up by some circumstantial evidence. So, for example, 2 of those on the boat were publicly named by the Cuban Ministry of the Interior 2 years ago. They described them as terrorists and said they were involved in sabotage.
Ed, what are we hearing from the Cuban government just about the investigation and its willingness to exchange information with America?
I think in many ways, if we zoom out and look at the big picture, this is the most interesting thing, because US-Cuban relations are massively fraught at the moment. The US is committed to regime change in Cuba by the end of the year. The US has put a de facto oil blockade on Cuba. It's not allowing oil in to the country. People are dying in hospitals. People are lacking water. Food prices are going up. Massive toll on the civilian population. And yet Cuba's attitude is conciliatory. I was at the press conference yesterday where the vice deputy minister, foreign minister, said that they are not only open to collaborating with the US, they always say that, but collaborating with the US to try and get to the facts, as he put it. And interestingly, it's not just they're collaborating with the US authorities or the Coast Guard, they're collaborating with Marco Rubio's State Department. That's according to the Cuban Ministry of Foreign Relations. Fascinating stuff, especially given all of the speculation about a possible deal in the works.
All right, Ed, appreciate your reporting from Havana. Thank you so much. Here in New York, a Columbia University student is back home this morning. She was released from ICE custody after Mayor Zoran Mamdani says he raised her case directly with President Trump. The student seen here after her release was taken in a dramatic early Thursday morning operation. University officials say federal agents posed as police looking for a missing child to gain access to an off-campus apartment building. That's where they arrested the 20-year-old over what DHS said was a terminated visa. DHS says agents identified themselves and were let in by the building manager and the student's roommate. The arrest sparked large campus protests, with Mayor Mamdani saying he talked about the case with President Trump. He was then told the student would be released imminently. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro joins me with the latest on this. So, Valerie, what do we know about what happened and what DHS is responding to? I know the student posted on her Instagram story she is safe and okay.
That's right, Joe. She's posted on Instagram, but we have yet to hear from her directly about what happened yesterday. So we have the version of events from the campus acting president, and we have what DHS has told us. The president of Columbia University, she says that this was 5 federal agents who arrived at the building around 6:30 yesterday morning. They say that they misrepresented themselves, that they were there looking for a missing child, and that's how they gained access to the building. But Claire Shipman, the acting president, she spoke out yesterday after the student's release. Take a listen to what she had to say about what happened.
Our security cameras captured the agents in the hallway showing pictures of the alleged missing child. Once inside the apartment, it became clear they had misrepresented themselves. A public safety officer arrived, asked multiple times for a warrant, which was not produced, and asked for time to call his boss, which was not given. The agents took our student. This was a frightening and fast-moving situation and utterly unacceptable for our students and staff. We started work immediately to gain her release.
You heard her saying there that this was captured on surveillance camera. We should note the university says they are not releasing that video at this time. DHS did issue that statement yesterday confirming that ICE arrested Elmina Agayeva, that is the student, and they say that, as you said earlier, the roommate and the building manager, according to ICE, that is how they gained access to the building. They say the student has no pending appeals or applications with DHS, all according to DHS.
Real quick, that soundbite there from Shipman that was released from the university, I'm assuming there, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about Mayor Mamdani here, because he says he spoke directly with President Trump about the case. He was actually at the White House yesterday. What are we learning about those conversations and what role the president may have played in this?
Mamdani was scheduled to be there to meet with President Trump yesterday. He was talking about a housing project here in New York City. And while he was there, he also brought up the cases of 4 other students who had been detained asking for their release. And it just so happened this happened yesterday while after Mamdani was there meeting with the president, that he raised the issue with this specific student. Mamdani tweeted later in the day that after that meeting with the president called him and said that she would be released. And of course, that's what happened later in the day.
We're hearing from the student's lawyer who says that they're filing a habeas corpus petition. Explain what it is they're looking for there and what happens next.
The petition was filed yesterday asking the court to stop the administration from transferring the student out of the district, out of the Southern District of New York, where this case was filed. They say that she is an Azerbaijani national, that she was held in detention without justification, and they called for her immediate release. Of course, that is what happened later on in the day. It's unclear what happens next, if she will have to go back to court. Her post on Instagram following all of this just saying that she's still in shock over what happened, Joe.
All right, Valerie, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Fresh off his State of the Union address, President Trump is taking his economic pitch to the campaign trail this afternoon. He's set to deliver remarks about his energy agenda in Corpus Christi, Texas. The president's visit to the Lone Star State comes just days before Republicans are set to cast their ballots in the Senate primary there. But Mr. Trump's coveted endorsement is noticeably missing from this competitive Republican primary. 3 of his allies are on the ballot: incumbent Senator John Cornyn, State Attorney General Ken Paxton, and Congressman Wesley Hunt. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us from Washington with more. John, good morning. So what should we expect to hear from the president today in Texas, and why is it he's not endorsing a candidate in this primary?
Joe, if you like the State of the Union, you're probably going to love what Donald Trump has to say in Corpus Christi today. Expect him to go out there and repeat a lot of the same themes that he had in the State of the Union, touting what he believes is a strong economic record that will turn the economy even further around in his telling of what's going on in the country right now. And so this is part of the normal post-State of the Union rollout where presidents go out and try to reinforce their message across the country. He is, as you point out, going there on in advance of this primary, this tough Senate Republican primary, and has not endorsed a candidate. I think the biggest reason he hasn't endorsed a candidate is that all 3 of them, Ken Paxton, Wesley Hunt, and Senator John Cornyn, have all been pretty loyal to President Trump. And the way that he usually distinguishes between candidates is he endorses the one who's loyal to him or endorses against the one who is disloyal, none of them falling into that disloyal category here.
His Vice President J.D. Vance also on the campaign trail in Wisconsin yesterday after making an announcement on Wednesday that's tied to his new role addressing fraud. Take a listen.
Announcing today that we have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligations seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money.
So, John, did the vice president address what the administration is calling this war on fraud when he was in Wisconsin yesterday? And just overall, how do these campaign trail visits reflect the administration's strategy with the midterms well underway now?
He did talk about fraud in Wisconsin, a state, as you know, very close to Minnesota, right next door to Minnesota. So he talked about the fraud situation. This is something that the administration has been talking a lot about. He is now the unofficial fraud czar. He also talked about a lot of the elements that President Trump talked about during his State of the Union. There was not a heavy emphasis on tariffs, which is something the president has really been pushing, but not so much everybody else in the Republican Party. So, we'll have to see whether that continues for anybody other than the president. But J.D. Vance doing the same thing. Again, this State of the Union rollout in as many places as they think they can get to until they get bored by that, which is typically what happens with the White House and the cabinet post State of the Union.
Well, let's talk about what's happening back in Washington. Yesterday, a federal judge gave the Trump administration the green light to continue with construction in that $400 million ballroom at the White House. What exactly did the judge say in this ruling, and just what does that mean for the timeline here for this project?
I mean, I don't think it was very much of a surprise that this is going to continue to go on. The timeline is going apace. I don't think there really was anything that stopped this from going forward, Joe. The president has the ability to spend these funds on the White House. Presidents have reconstructed the White House in various ways before. And so, I think, you're going to see a ballroom at the White House, all said and done.
All right. John Allen, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Joe.
In Arizona, investigators are looking into a potential new development in the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie. Authorities say they're investigating a never-before-seen Ring camera video of a car that was near Guthrie's home at around the same time of her abduction. It comes as the FBI shifts its investigation into a new phase. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in Tucson with the latest.
This new Ring camera footage obtained by Fox News Digital shows the car driving around 2:30 a.m. the night Nancy Guthrie was abducted. The sheriff's office says they're aware of the video, which was taken about 2.5 miles from her home and outside that 2-mile perimeter where investigators had asked for video. An FBI source tells NBC News since Nancy's disappearance, investigators have amassed 5,000 to 10,000 hours of footage that agents are now going through. It comes as the FBI is in the process of handing Nancy's home back over to Savannah and her family. Two law enforcement sources tell NBC News that after weeks of extensively searching the property, investigators no longer feel a need to seal the home off as a crime scene or restrict the family's access. Nancy's street also now closed down to public parking, limiting the media presence outside the home. This will now be the second time the property has been returned to the family. 2 days after Nancy's abduction, the Pima County Sheriff announces investigators had completed their search.
The scene is done. We're done with the residence. We have turned that over to the family.
But a day after the sheriff said that, the property was sealed off, this time by the FBI.
The main significance of handing the house back is that is going to be the end of the ability to collect evidence. Any evidence that they would collect, any defense attorney would say, this could be contaminated, this could have been planted. This is the end of the line as far as collecting evidence goes.
And as for the thousands of hours of video footage they've obtained, an FBI official says that investigators now need to watch every piece of that video in real time. That remains one of the key parts of this investigation. And while there are many boots on the ground still in Tucson, a senior law enforcement official says there are also now scores of agents centered here in Phoenix at the FBI field office, where they are now analyzing intel and poring over all that evidence. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thank you. Time now for your morning news now weather and a look at what you can expect this weekend. Angie Lastman joins us now. I see the word clipper. We're not talking about a haircut, right?
No, we are not, Joe. You are, unfortunately, we're not talking about the haircut. We're talking about the kind that brings us cold air and potentially snow. But we've got a bit of a warm up in some spots, and it's not all bad news. So let me give you kind of the lay of the land. This is what we're going to deal with here as we get into the weekend specifically. This weekend, we've got a clipper system that's going to slide through the Midwest and the Northeast, and it's it's going to bring some really cold air and, yes, the potential for some additional snow. And we've got kind of multiple of these happening, but late Sunday, we're going to see some of this really warm, moist Gulf air kind of collide with that cold air, and we'll basically see some of that snow and ice develop across parts of the Midwest. As we get into Monday, this is when things ramp up for folks across the Mid-Atlantic. This is where you'll see some of that mixture of the snow, the ice, Washington, D.C., stretching down to Raleigh and back towards the Ohio Valley included in that. So even places like D.C. in your afternoon hours for your commute on Monday could be a little tricky with those slick conditions. By Tuesday, this lifts up to the north, and we're seeing this kind of mess once again across parts of the Northeast. That means early morning snow and the potential for ice for that region. And the good news is most of these areas are going to transition over to rain here by the time the second half of Tuesday gets underway. So between Sunday and Tuesday, some impressive amounts in some of those higher elevations. 4 or 5 inches, I think, is the larger amounts that we'll see when all is said and done. In the meantime, right now, we actually have much of the country running way warm for this time of year, except for parts of the upper Midwest. 21 degrees in Minneapolis for tomorrow. Green Bay still at 23 degrees. This is part of that system that's going to kind of slide down and bring us some cold air. As we get into Sunday, much of that spreads to the east. So 35 degrees in Boston, 22 for Buffalo, Cincinnati at 42. And then Monday morning, really, really chilly, 19 for your temperature in New York City. As we look to the afternoon hours, for the early part of our upcoming week, upper 30s Monday, but upper 20s in New York City on Tuesday. We've got the 50s in Washington, D.C. on Monday. And we will see really actually kind of a nice weekend on Saturday in places like New York City. We'll nearly reach 50 degrees. But I urge you to get outside on Saturday if you live in places like New York City.
because it's going to go down from there.
Once again. And we'll be talking about, again, a couple of snowflakes flying as well. So
the good news is if you haven't used all your sweaters yet this season, you still have time to try them out.
I'm so sick of my winter clothes. I am ready for spring clothes for sure.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. More to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, tech on trial. Some new developments in that landmark lawsuit against top social media companies as the star witness takes the stand. How she says the platforms harmed her mental health as a child. Up first after the break, some breaking news out of the Middle East. Pakistan declaring an open war with Afghanistan after a series of strikes. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A full day of nuclear talks between the United States and Iran ended yesterday without a breakthrough. The two sides are trying to reach a deal to avoid a military confrontation. The foreign minister of Oman, which is mediating the negotiations, did say significant progress had been made. In a post on X, he said talks would, quote, resume soon after consultation in the respective capitals. He added discussions on a technical level will take place next week in Vienna. The optimistic tone comes as the world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, continued on its journey to the Middle East. It's seen here leaving the Greek island of Crete. It's part of America's ongoing military buildup in the region, which is now the largest in that region since the U.S. invasion of Iraq back in 2003. NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons joins us from Dubai with the latest. So, Keir, it does look like the Iranians are also striking a bit of an upbeat tone following these talks. Just what are we hearing from them and from the U.S. side?
Well, look, I mean, they are, but at the same time, today, the news is that the U.S. Embassy in Israel has told non-emergency staff that if they want to leave the country, they should, and they should do it today. So clearly, the tension in the region is escalating. The oil price this morning has ticked up, and there are reports that there will be a meeting in Washington on that side of the pond, Joe, to talk about the question of where to go from here. So I suspect the story will shift to Washington today as President Trump hears from his envoy, Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who were in those negotiations yesterday, and decides what to do. That massive armada of destroyers, 2 aircraft carriers, you mentioned the Ford, there are reports of it now in port in Israel. That maybe signals that there isn't an immediate prospect of a strike, immediate as in the coming hours, coming day, perhaps. And again, all of this comes down to what President Trump decides. 2 U.S. officials have told NBC News the talks were positive, But the mood music does appear to be shifting today.
Keir, talk to us a bit more about some of the major sticking points here. We understand this has moved beyond just Iran's nuclear program, right?
Yeah, look, I mean, the sticking points are the same sticking points, despite all of the diplomatic effort. Effectively, what the US is saying is that Iran cannot enrich uranium. It should not be able to do that. Iran is saying it wants to be able to do that, at least for civilian purposes. Counterpoint, the US says, well, you can take uranium for civilian purposes without needing to enrich it in country. And then, of course, you had President Trump at the State of the Union talking about intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, that appears to be something that won't necessarily happen until for 10 years, according to US government analysis. Iran would have intercontinental ballistic missiles in about 10 years' time. But all of this is really framing, as we said yesterday, the case for potential strikes on Iran, despite all of the concerns about retaliation by Iran, what it would do to the oil price. Strikes, for example, in the Gulf, where I am here, and on Israel. These are nervous times.
Keir, while I have you, I want to ask you about this breaking news we're getting this morning about Pakistan saying it's in open war with Afghanistan, both countries carrying out attacks on each other. What's going on here, and how did we get to this point?
Yeah, I think there's lots to it. It's complex, but it is notable that it's happening in the same region as Iran. I think that's not insignificant. There have been tensions between Afghanistan and Pakistan over a long time. There have been skirmishes. What's happened here is Afghanistan is accused of striking across the border into Pakistan. Pakistan launching attacks on the Afghanistan capital, Kabul, on the Afghan Taliban. And Pakistan has a very strong military, so it's hard to see how the Taliban would be able to win in a war like that. It's the Pakistani defense minister who says we're in open war. And just to make the point about the region that this is in, and an important point about why this is something that we should be looking at, is there are many, many countries engaged here with interest. Russia, China, the US, obviously, and also Iran. Iran, ironically, today offering to mediate. So this is a place that can have implications, wider implications. But again, a nuclear-armed Pakistan against the Afghanistan Taliban, you'd suspect the odds were more in Pakistan's favor, frankly.
Keir, good to have you with us. A lot to cover this morning. Thank you so much. Let's return to the U.S.-Iran talks, get some analysis with Hagar Shamali. She's the host of Oh My World on YouTube, a former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the UN and former NSC director for Syria and Lebanon. Hagar, always good to have you with us. So we heard from Keir, there's still no breakthrough on talks, but perhaps some signs of progress. I mean, does the fact that these talks are expected to continue next week signal both sides are serious about avoiding war?
Well, serious is perhaps a stretch. To be honest with you, Keir gave such an accurate portrayal because the talks are ongoing. The Omanis are the one that is a mediator really pushing this view and perspective that that things were positive, that there were positive ideas exchanged and creative ideas. But from what I hear in Washington, it's that they don't really see the Iranians inching closer to the U.S. demand of no nuclear enrichment. And that's before we've even gotten to the remainder of U.S. demands about ballistic missiles, not supporting terrorist proxies across the region, and stopping their human rights abuses. So the fact is, it's not that I view these talks as for show, but at the same time, I view them as an effort, a last resort, if you will. They're trying to exhaust them before what looks like something like a very, very potential strikes.
The talks were tough enough to begin with, but it seems like they've gone beyond just Iran's nuclear program, talking about things like the ballistic missile program. How much could that complicate things? Is it something Iran is even willing to discuss?
Well, it depends how you view it when you talk about complicate things. The U.S. administration would like to see regime change. And by the way, most administrations would have loved to see Iranian regime change. How you pursue it, whether you pursue it, is a different question. And the fact is, if that is your goal, which it pretty much is, then it's a complicating factor or it's an accelerant, to be honest with you, towards strikes. Now, those strikes might not necessarily land in regime change. It just could further crumble the regime, which is already facing such weakness, so many fissures. It has no money. And so that's, where they're headed. It also buys a little time for the U.S. to figure out if the regime is in fact crumbling, which it is, if its fate is inevitable, then maybe they could do something where they message to the IRGC, hey, no military coup, otherwise you're going to face a problem as well. So it looks like the administration is figuring out the best way for things to crumble because this regime is already crumbling.
Keir mentioned this morning what we're learning, that the U.S. is authorizing the departure of non-emergency government personnel and family members from the Jerusalem embassy. Just a few days ago, we know the U.S. embassy in Beirut ordered all of its non-essential staff to leave Lebanon. How do you interpret those moves?
I would interpret them as not a bluff. And certainly also, by the way, sending those aircraft carriers to the Persian Gulf the way we have, this is very costly for the United States to send those aircraft carriers and everything that goes with it, the supply of ammunition, the refueling, and all of that is there. And when you add to it, sending home U.S. personnel on the dime of the United States government, you are talking about preparations, real, genuine preparations. And it's not a bluff. It is, of course, intended to increase pressure on the Iranian regime. If the regime caves to every single one of the U.S. demands, then that's great. But it's a pressure tactic, but it is a very genuine threat on the other end of it.
All right, Agar, always good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Coming up, pushing back, podcaster Kylie Kelsey calling out critics after admitting her 3-year-old daughter still uses a pacifier. So when we come back, more on the message that's renewing a debate among parents. You're watching Morning News Now. We're back with the growing question around a very popular parenting practice. When is it time to stop children from using pacifiers? On yesterday's episode of her Not Gonna Lie podcast, Kylie Kelsey said her daughter, who just turned 3, still uses a pacifier, but their goal is to wean her off of it this year. In typical Kylie fashion, she did not really give listeners the chance to offer their opinion before shutting down any criticism. Take a listen to this clip.
We have some things that we need to work on. The age of 3 is going to come with losing passies, which for all of those people who are going to get in the comments and be like, by 3 years old, she should have already lost the passies. Hey, I'm going to need you to sit down. You actually came to the wrong place. And we don't accept that type of bullshit around here. So I'm going to need you to just kick rocks.
All right, recent studies show the majority of parents let their babies use a pacifier to comfort them when they're fussy or colicky. It can also help them sleep better, and sometimes pacifiers help reduce teething pain. But many pediatricians say that age and timing are key to healthy pacifier behavior. For more on this, let's bring in Dr. Amanda Kravitz. She is a pediatrician at Weill Cornell Medicine. Dr. Kravitz, good to have you with us. I know the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends babies can start using pacifiers between 3 to 4 weeks old after they start consistent breastfeeding. But what else should parents consider before their children do start using one?
It's a great question. We think pacifiers, especially in the first year of life, can be an amazing tool for soothing your child. They can be helpful with teething in some instances. But really, once we get beyond the first year of life is when we start running into some complications. And the longer that a child uses a pacifier, sometimes the more severe those complications can be. In my practice, I'm a little bit more strict with trying to encourage cessation of pacifier use. So I usually recommend between 18 and 24 months. I find if you use them long beyond 24, 36 months is when we start to see real complications in the future.
Yeah, what are some of the potential risks if they are used too long?
Yeah, so the most important or most significant complication that we see is related to the teeth and the jaw. As you can imagine, there's a lot of teeth and jaw development in the first years of life. And if a child is using a pacifier for a prolonged period of time, the teeth and jaw can start to form around the pacifier. And we see something called malocclusion, where the teeth and jaw don't line up as they should. And then for children who use it a lot during the daytime, sometimes we also see problems with their speech. They're not encouraged to speak as much because they have a pacifier in their mouth.
How can parents make weaning off pacifiers easier? Because obviously some of the reasons that parents do it for a longer time is because it does make things easier.
Yeah, absolutely. gets a little bit harder as the child gets older because they get more attached to the pacifier. So I would say in the first year of life, if your child stops using it, lean into that. If they don't want it anymore, don't force it. After a year, it can get a little bit more challenging because they get attached to it. Things that can be good after a year is replacing it with something like a stuffed animal or a blanket. If the child's even a little older than that, you can have the pacifier fairy come, where they replace all the pacifiers overnight with a present like a toy or a stuffed animal, and the child wakes up in the morning and all the pacifiers are gone. And then just lots of positive reinforcement when the child chooses to use something else instead of the pacifier.
I like the pacifier fairy. Is that person friends with the tooth fairy as far as you know?
Definitely. They're besties, I think.
Good. They hang out. I love it. All right. So if parents just don't want to use a pacifier in the first place, what are some good alternatives, some other options that can maybe provide that same comfort to kids?
Yeah, so in the first year of life, there's nothing really that we replace the pacifier with that the child can suck on to help them sleep. If there's teething, there's things that we can do, but there's no real good replacement in that first year of life. After 1, it's safe for them to sleep with things in their crib. So using things like a stuffy or a stuffed animal, a lovey or a blanket, a small blankie, those things can be really helpful to help soothe children, especially when they're sleeping.
All right, some good advice there. Dr. Amanda Kravitz, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Coming up, a Hollywood-style twist in the bidding war for Warner Brothers Discovery. Paramount now closer to acquiring the media giant. We're going to break down the company's latest offer and what a merger could mean next on Morning News Now. The young woman at the center of that landmark social media addiction trial in Los Angeles is set to take the stand today for a second day. The 20-year-old, known by her initials KGM, is scheduled to finish cross-examination. Yesterday, she told the court that she began using YouTube at age 6 and Instagram at age 9. She alleges the apps dominated her childhood and seriously affected her self-worth. The case focuses on whether social media companies deliberately designed addictive platforms, and it could set a major legal precedent for whether the companies are liable for mental health issues with children. More now, we're joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, good to have you with us. So we know during court yesterday, KGM's attorney said that the client was nervous but would be, quote, meticulously honest. What do you make of the testimony so far? Anything surprise you at all?
No, there are going to be few surprises, but I do wonder how the jury is taking this testimony. On the one hand, they might find her sympathetic, but on the other hand, as you just mentioned, testimony about using social media at ages as young as the single digits might have jurors wondering not so much what the social media companies did wrong, but maybe what went wrong in the parenting side, what went wrong in her environment. And those are critical questions because causation is, in a way, the entire case. And by that, I mean, if these companies did something wrong, even if they did something wrong, did they cause her harm? That is something the plaintiff has the burden to prove.
And let's talk about the defense here. Clearly, Meta is pushing back on these claims, saying she faced other issues at home that contributed to her mental health. Are they building a strong case here, the defense?
I believe they are. I mean, it really depends because you really can't tell what the jurors are thinking. They're going to bring their own personal experiences. And by the way, you might have jurors who didn't grow up with social media, and you may have jurors that did grow up with social media. But the plaintiff, in my view, even though they have a lesser burden of proof in a civil case, just preponderance of the evidence, they have an uphill battle here because arguably anything else in her ecosystem that was a substantial factor in her mental health issues. Again, it could be environment, it could be bullies at school, it could be parenting. The plaintiff has testified about what some jurors might consider, well, that's just teen angst, and everybody has it. And of course, I'm not minimizing it. Other jurors may be saying, wow, what she has sounds different from what I'm used to hearing teenagers experiencing. But even if they find that, they have to find that the companies and their algorithms and what they put out there as a product was a substantial factor.
Yesterday, outside of the courtroom, Instagram announced a new safety feature that'll notify parents if their child repeatedly searches for terms that are related to suicide or self-harm within a short period. It officially rolls out next week. Can anything like this be used as an argument in the case for Meta here, or does this case have to basically focus on the past and what this plaintiff experienced growing up?
Well, if anything, it might be actually evidence that would help the plaintiff. But as a general proposition, what we call subsequent remedial measures, when a company or a defendant or an individual after an accident takes measures to fix whatever was wrong, those are actually usually inadmissible. And there's a strong public policy reason for that. We want to encourage people to fix problems, to remedy issues that caused an accident. So as a general rule, even though it's strong evidence of someone's culpability, we generally don't allow that evidence in of subsequent remedial measures, fixing the problem after the problem may have caused an accident.
Let's take a step back for a moment. As we've noted, this is civil, not a criminal case. You notice there's a difference in the standards of proof here. But what other differences should we keep in mind? And just what does that mean for how this case is moving forward? What we can expect next?
A major difference, and it's not something we necessarily see as people observing this case going along, is discovery. Criminal discovery is much more limited. In civil discovery, you get a lot more, and one of those lot more things you get is deposition. So while we're learning of this testimony for the first time, you can assume that during a deposition, which was probably 3 times as long, the testimony, as the trial testimony, the attorneys probed every one of these issues. So for the attorneys, even those cross-examining her, there are probably very, very few surprises because they've locked in almost everybody's testimony before the plaintiff took the stand at trial.
All right, Danny, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Another headline that's shaking things up on Wall Street and in the media world, Netflix now says it is bowing out of that big budget brawl with Paramount for control of Warner Brothers Discovery. Comes after Warner Brothers board called Paramount Skydance's revised bid of $31 per share a superior offer. Paramount says it plans to acquire all of WBD. That includes its pay TV networks like CNN. It's also agreeing to pay the $2.8 billion breakup fee that WBD will owe Netflix, as well as a $7 billion fee in case this proposed merger does not win regulatory approval. Netflix's co-CEOs released a statement yesterday saying, quote, "This transaction was always a nice to have at the right price, but not a must have at any price." Well, let's bring in NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal, who's been all over this, following the fight from the very beginning. Allie, so how big of a deal is this offer from Paramount? Is it really that much more generous than what Netflix was offering?
Well, it's a little hard to compare, Joe, because Paramount is going after the entire company. Netflix just wanted the studio side of the business along with the streaming platform. But if you take a look at this sweetened Paramount offer, earlier this week, Paramount upped its bid price from $30 a share to $31 a share. That values WBD at $77 billion, excluding debt. Netflix had a deal on the table just under $28 a share, so the offer there was implying $72 billion worth of equity. So apples to apples, you can't really compare. However, the board ultimately determined that this sweetened Paramount offer was superior. Paramount and WBD have been going back and forth for months. Paramount submitted several bids that WBD ultimately rejected, consistently siding with Netflix. And at the end of the day, Netflix said it just got a little too expensive for them to rise and match it. Netflix did have 4 business days to respond, but they came out right away with that statement, basically saying that they were bowing out at this point.
Yeah, it seems like they were kind of over everything that was going on with this, some of the politics involved, and their shareholders, Netflix, clearly happy with the decision yesterday. So, Allie, if this is all approved, would a combined Warner Brothers and Paramount, what would it look like when it comes to a media footprint?
Well, it'll be interesting to hear from Paramount CEO David Ellison when it comes to how he plans to integrate these two companies. But just from a media asset perspective, you're seeing on your screen now, look at the ownership of Paramount Skydance. They own CBS. This is going to be a big one to watch in the coming weeks, especially after all the leadership changes at CBS, controversy surrounding Stephen Colbert. How does David Ellison plan to integrate CBS with CNN? You also have MTV, Paramount Pictures, Nickelodeon, Showtime, Comedy Central, a lot of these recognizable brands. And then on the Warner Brothers Discovery side, HBO, that premier cable channel. We have the the streaming side, HBO Max, Warner Brothers Pictures. This is the studio behind Harry Potter. DC, the studio behind Batman. The media footprint here is large and will definitely be a big focus in the weeks and months ahead here.
It's not a done deal yet. Warner Brothers Board of Directors has to first formally terminate the Netflix agreement. I mean, that could happen as early as today. What else has to happen for this deal to even become a reality?
So once that Netflix agreement is terminated, WBD and Paramount need to come out and release specific and detailed about this deal. Then you have this going to a shareholder vote. This is set to take place on March 20th. And then, of course, you need the Department of Justice to get on board here. So a lot of those regulatory hurdles Paramount will have to clear. Now, what is interesting is that Senate Judiciary Subcommittee, which CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, that co-CEO, he testified in front of earlier this month. There was a second hearing put on the calendar between Netflix and WBD. It's unclear if Paramount will face the same request. You would assume so. Senator Cory Booker said he expects that. So still a lot more to come here when it comes to this deal officially crossing the finish line. But you alluded to the share price. Netflix shares are up nearly 10% early this morning. So they're happy to be walking away, have a little bit of that cash on hand. I will say, though, that WBD shares, they are down a little bit this morning. So we'll have to see what those shareholders ultimately approve come next month.
We know you'll keep an eye on it. Allie Canal, thank you so much. Coming up here in Morning News Now, a fashion fight taking off at airports across the country.
You guys like to dress when you travel?
You see? Classic. It's a long flight, and I'd rather be comfortable.
It's none of their business what we wear at the airport.
When we return, how a joke pajama ban at one airport is setting off turbulence between passengers. Don't jet. We'll be right back. We're back with a long-running debate that pits comfort against style. What should you wear when you fly? Well, one Florida airport floated the idea of a pajama ban. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the details.
Should there be rules around what you can wear to fly?
I don't have sweatpants on. This is a big accomplishment for me.
That's the debate taking off on social media after a Florida airport posted, "We've seen enough. It's time to ban pajamas at Tampa International Airport. The madness stops today. The movement starts now." The post on X racking up millions of views and opinions.
Are you going to tackle somebody because they got some pajamas on if they get off the plane?
One person reacting, pajamification of society is out of control, while another says, putting on the most pajama outfit I have today just because of this post.
It's a long flight, and I'd rather be comfortable.
At Newark Airport, we saw fuzzy pants, ornate scarves, socks, and sandals. This dog sporting a cashmere sweater. How do you guys like to dress when you travel?
You see? Classic.
While Tampa International tells us their pajama ban is just a joke, airport etiquette has been in the national spotlight after the transportation secretary encouraged travelers to avoid slippers and PJs last November.
I would encourage people to maybe dress a little better.
A call that harkens back to the suits and skirts popular on planes decades ago. Marcy Smith remembers strict dress codes when she was an airline employee in the 70s.
And there were rules that required you to be groomed and look nice every day, or you were sent home.
And now when you leave home to fly, you see everything from sweatsuits to business suits.
It's none of their business what we wear at the airport.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
All right, let's end this hour with the 5-year-old boy who spotted a mistake in a major airline's corporate training manual. His attention to detail earned him a VIP trip to the company's headquarters, a personal invite from the airline's CEO. Reporter Byron Reed from our Denver affiliate spoke to the preschooler about his experience.
You're on the tips of the wings.
Traveling by plane takes you on a journey.
Because they get you from place to place a lot faster than a car does.
For 5-year-old William Hines,
I love flying.
It's a mode of transportation that hits home.
I don't have to walk 7,000 miles.
William is a pre-kindergarten student at Campbell Early Learning Center with a passion for flight.
That shows them how many degrees the engine is.
He's very mechanically inclined, and
So I suppose it was a natural progression to want to know about more fascinating things.
Amber Hines is William's mom. She says his passion took off thanks to a connection with the Southwest Airlines pilot who brought William a company training manual.
And sat with him for 2 hours going over the charts and just talking shop with him.
But William noticed something was a little off.
I discovered that 2 terrain monitors did not match. They did not match at all. That is closer up and that's farther up.
I had no idea that one of our friends had started a job with Southwest Airlines, but she said, "Can I pass these along to my manager?" And I said, "No, sure, that's fine."
That's when the CEO of the airlines found out, then invited William and his family to Dallas for a VIP tour.
So we went down to headquarters. It was amazing. Everyone there was very, very welcoming, and we definitely had the tour of a lifetime.
I got to go in a simulator, and the simulator pilot was Chris, showing how close.
It's an experience this family will always remember.
That heats up the cockpit.
Because of William's attention to detail that might land him in a career he already loves.
Then I can support people to a place, like 140 people.
What a cute kid. Thanks to Byron Reed for bringing us that story. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off today. Right now on Morning News Now, on deck, former President Bill Clinton set to answer congressional questions today on his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Comes just a day after his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, told top lawmakers in her own deposition that she never met Epstein and only knew his right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, as an acquaintance. More from her hours-long testimony ahead of her husband's turn before leaders looking for answers. Also this morning, new details on that deadly confrontation in the Caribbean that is ratcheting up tensions between America and Cuba. U.S. officials now telling NBC News at least one American citizen was killed, another detained after that violent shootout at sea. But we're learning about those on board that Florida-registered boat and their alleged ties to an anti-Castro group at odds with the nation's communist regime. Plus, some welcome news for folks in the market for a new home. Mortgage rates down under 6% for the first time in years. But is now really the best time to buy? We are watching your wallet. And survey says enough already. Later in the hour, the feedback frenzy that's got many Americans doling out 0 stars to companies that are growing obsessed with an answer to the question, how are we doing? Let's begin this hour with the ongoing investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Former President Bill Clinton is set to speak with a congressional committee this morning as part of their investigation. This historic deposition comes just one day after his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, spent hours answering questions from those same lawmakers. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is in Chappaqua, New York, where the depositions are taking place. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. And this committee has a long list of questions for former President Bill Clinton, many of which came up during his wife's testimony yesterday. Meanwhile, Democrats on the committee say they want the current president, Donald Trump, and members of his administration to come before them as well.
This morning, former President Bill Clinton is finally set to answer questions about his ties to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell.
No one's accusing at this moment the Clintons of any wrongdoing, but we have a lot of questions.
The former president has denied any wrongdoing, but he appears in multiple photos with Epstein, and his name appears hundreds of times in the files released by the Justice Department. Both Republicans and Democrats say they want to know more about that relationship.
Hello, everybody.
Hillary Clinton, following her own deposition on Thursday, telling reporters she's confident her husband has nothing to hide.
I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light.
The former Secretary of State spending nearly 6 hours answering questions about the Epstein controversy, making it clear she did not know much.
I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance.
Democrats in the room say when her testimony is made public, it will show Mrs. Clinton performed well.
I think it's actually quite embarrassing to Republicans, the way they tried to box her and how she responded quite forcefully.
While Republicans say it will show her being evasive.
There were a lot of questions that we asked that we weren't satisfied with the answers that we got.
Democrats also argue calling the Clintons to testify about the investigations opens the door to compelling testimony from President Trump.
He is the person that appears almost more than anyone else.
Republicans appearing to cast doubt on that happening.
President Trump has answered hundreds, if not thousands, of questions from you all about Epstein, and I think he's been very transparent in releasing the documents.
And of course, President Trump has denied any wrongdoing connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, today's deposition is expected to go even longer than yesterday's deposition, which was close to 6 hours. And Republican leaders of the Oversight Committee say they plan to release the entire transcript and the unedited video of both depositions as soon as possible. Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you. We're getting new details about the people on board the boat that was involved in a deadly shootout off the coast of Cuba. U.S. officials tell NBC News some of the men on the ship were American citizens and at least one of them was killed. NBC News senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us with the latest on this. Gabe, good morning.
Joe, good morning. There has been a long history of distrust between these two countries. The White House has been notably silent on this incident as it now scrambles to find out what role American citizens played in the confrontation. Morning. The Cuban government says it's willing to exchange information with the U.S. as both countries open investigations into that deadly incident off Cuba's coast. U.S. officials tell NBC News American citizens were among the passengers on the 24-foot boat involved in the confrontation. At least one U.S. citizen was killed and another is now detained. According to Cuban authorities, all 10 people on the intercepted boat were Cuban residents of the U.S. that were planning an infiltration with terrorist purposes. Adding, they seized weapons on the boat, which was registered in Florida. According to this police report, the owner of the boat reported it stolen after noticing it was missing hours after the shootout. Cuban authorities say the boat's passengers shot first at the country's border patrol, who returned fire, killing 4 and detaining 6 others who were injured. Among the detained, Conrado Galindo Sariol, his wife and daughter, speaking to Telemundo. He wasn't a terrorist, nor has he ever held a weapon, his wife Ana says. 2 sources close to one of the detained men tell NBC News at least some of the boat's passengers are affiliated with an anti-Castro group opposed to Cuba's communist regime. Michelle Ortega Casanova was listed among the dead. Somehow this battle has to end, his brother says, adding, there's a freedom we all long for. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has requested access to the injured men who were initially taken to this hospital in Cuba.
Right now we're still gathering facts. I have every reason to want our own information. Like, we don't generally make decisions in the United States on the basis of what the Cuban authorities are saying.
And while the Trump administration deals with those tensions with Cuba, it's also facing conflict in another key foreign policy area. Breaking overnight in a region where American troops were stationed for 20 years, Pakistan has declared open war on Afghanistan, even bombing military targets in Kabul after the Taliban attacked its border. This has been a long simmering conflict, but the chaos threatens to further destabilize a region where terrorist groups such as ISIS and Al-Qaeda are trying to remobilize. Joe?
All right, Gabe, thank you. Now to the ongoing search for Nancy Guthrie in Arizona. Sources say the FBI is now in the process of handing Nancy's home back to Savannah and her family. This comes as we're learning more about the thousands of hours of video that investigators are pouring through. This Sunday will mark 1 month since Nancy went missing. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz is in Tucson with the latest. Liz, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning to you. As investigators go through all of that video footage they've obtained, the sheriff says that they are aware of a new neighborhood Ring camera video that's emerged showing a car driving down a road just minutes after Nancy's disappearance. This comes as we are also getting so many questions from our viewers about this case. Many of them we're answering this morning.
This morning, almost a month after Nancy Guthrie went missing, investigators still combing through surveillance footage from the area around her house. Yesterday, this new Ring camera video emerging, obtained by Fox News Digital, showing a car driving down a street around 2:30 a.m. the night Nancy was taken. The street about 2.5 miles from her home, just outside that 2-mile perimeter where investigators had asked neighbors for any video they might have to help the case. The sheriff department saying they're aware of the car video. Authorities trying to piece together the puzzle of what happened to Nancy and answer the many questions that still remain, many of them on the minds of Savannah's loyal viewers who have flooded us with questions since Nancy went missing. One of the biggest, how did the suspect get into Nancy's home? We've asked the sheriff that several times. It's one of the things he just won't answer.
How do you think the suspect got into the home? Was the door unlocked? Did they have a key?
So I'm not going to go into whether that's forced entry, not forced entry, or my suspicions.
The sheriff also won't say if any blood was found inside the house, where the unknown mixed DNA was found at the property, or what other evidence they've sent out for testing, and if anything other than Nancy was taken from the home.
When you're transparent, it doesn't mean you just open your whole investigation up.
As for the current state of the case, one of you asked, what does it mean that the home is being given back to the Guthrie family? Former FBI Special Agent Brianna Fox says it's a standard part of the investigative process.
They feel like they've exhausted it in terms of every single piece of DNA, every single fiber, every single video camera.
Another question, do they have any credible new leads? Authorities haven't said, but since that emotional video from Savannah announcing a $1 million reward for information that leads to finding Nancy,
someone out there knows something.
Hundreds of new tips have flooded in, authorities still going through them. As everyone continues to search for answers, there have been overwhelming messages of support from viewers and Nancy's community, everyone hoping Savannah's plea will be answered.
Help us bring our beloved mom home.
And one of the questions we also got is about staffing. We know that there are scores of agents still boots on the ground here in Tucson, but a senior law enforcement source tells NBC News that they are also now centering some of their agents out of the FBI field office in Phoenix. This is in no way to suggest that they are giving up on this case. They say that this is just where their investigators can best hunker down, analyze the intel, go over all the evidence, including all those thousands of hours of video footage. FBI official says they have to watch every single piece of video in real time. Joe.
All right, Liz, appreciate your reporting on all this. Thank you. Let's move now to some good news for those looking to buy a new home. A 30-year fixed-rate mortgage has fallen under 6% for the first time in more than 3 years. With mortgage rates staying high over the past several years, so has the median age to buy a home. The National Association of Realtors reported in November that the median age was at an all-time high of 40 years old, those old 40-year-olds. But with mortgage rates finally below 6% for the first time since 2022, maybe now is the time to buy. Let's turn to NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans to break down what these lower mortgage rates mean for those who've been waiting to buy. Is now a good time to buy?
Look, 5.98% is what Freddie Mac said yesterday for the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. And that's a really important psychological milestone to fall below 6%. We know at the end of last year, there were more people who were getting mortgages at 6%. If you look over the past 5 years, remember, a lot of people have a 3% loan, and then rates shot up almost to 8%. So there's been this sticker shock. So we're watching them drift lower here. For some people, if you are ready to buy a home and you have the down payment and you are in the neighborhood you want to be in and you can afford it, it is a good time. But let's be real. There are a lot of other barriers to buying a home right now, like insurance costs and upkeep and honestly, and taxes and the lack of availability in some neighborhoods.
And that you might have to pay more than 20% because you're competing against people with so much money and all of that. And I guess the question people might be wondering is there any sign that we would see a dramatically lower interest rate anytime soon that you would want to wait for?
If I knew the answer to that, I'd own an island in the Caribbean. I don't know which way rates are going to go. A lot of people thought they would drift down like this throughout the year. So this below 6% has happened earlier than many people think. It all depends on what happens in the economy, quite frankly. I don't think anybody thinks we're going back to 3% anytime soon. So let's keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. Okay, there were some folks who, I don't want to call them impatient, but they got sick and tired of waiting. So maybe in the last year or two, they did buy a home. At what point does refinancing maybe make sense?
So the rule of thumb is if you're a full percentage point below, if the rate today is a full percentage point below what you bought, then it makes sense to think about refinancing. And if you look here at just this very crude math, I mean, if you refinanced from 7% to 6%, you'd save a couple of $100 a month. But remember, you have to pay closing costs again. Remember, if you recently bought the home, you might not have enough equity in it, actually, to qualify for a refi. So that's all the backdrop there. But at least, Joe, we're talking about it.
Right, yeah.
Because for so long, people have been iced out of the market. So at least we're looking at rates that might be enticing to some people.
We'll take it. So despite all that snow outside and the cold weather, spring selling season is around the corner. What's it looking like this time around?
It is, and these mortgage rates declining is a good sign. Zillow had a really interesting study this week saying that for home buyers, conditions are improving. They can afford maybe $30,000 more this year on a house than they could last year. And I also saw that some of the home builders, look, they know there's an affordability problem for Americans. Home builders have been building a lot of homes. That's where you're seeing the price cuts on new homes.
Oh, all right.
So existing home prices, that's the biggest part of the market. Those are still pretty elevated, near record highs for those home prices. But you are starting to see some price cuts in the new homes. So that's a little part of the market that's got some action.
Good to know. All right, Christine Romans, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. All right, let's take a look outside and what's left from the blizzard that kicked off this week. Remember, that was this week. Got all the details on what to expect from your forecast this weekend with your morning News Now weather and Angie Lastman. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The good news is we've had a whole lot of melting since that blizzard because temperatures have warmed up. And honestly, if you look across the country, we've got temperatures running way above normal for most of us. Almost summer-like in a couple of spots where we are going to hit the 80s. We've got the potential for record highs for multiple locations through the weekend, but 84 degrees today. That's your afternoon high in Dallas, 67 for Kansas City. Not so much farther to the north. I'm sorry, Fargo, just 10 degrees. Green Bay, 23. That's all you're going to get. Those are some of the chilly spots, but really, even out towards the mid-Atlantic, places like Washington, D.C., you're going to tap out more than 10 degrees above where you should be into those low 60s. It's mid-70s for Memphis. So overall, a fairly mild day for a lot of folks. And many of us stay in that same kind of range as we get into tomorrow. We've even got some 90s on tap in places like Tucson, 70s for Trinidad, 80s for Dallas, Fort Worth. But it's the cooler air that starts to kind of work its way farther to the east here as we get into Sunday. Notice the 20s and the teens will start to take shape, and especially a heads up for Monday morning across the Northeast. Temperatures will be quite frigid. Single digits for Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo at just 10 degrees with a 0-degree wind chill. It'll feel like 10 in New York City on Monday morning. As we get through the early morning hours, we rebound into those upper 30s, but we're really going to be stuck kind of in the chillier conditions as we get into next week. The weekend, though, in a lot of these spots looks pretty good. So there is some time to enjoy more of that melting and some milder conditions. But we've also got some snow and some unfortunate rain that we're going to have to deal with and potentially ice. We've got this system that's going to develop in the plains in the Midwest. This is Sunday. It's going to bring some snow showers to folks across the mid-Atlantic as we get into Monday. This may be including, again, some snow, some rain, some slick travel for that early morning hour. Joe, I-70, I-81 are two spots I would watch. And then as we get into Tuesday, we've got the mix of rain and snow along the I-95 corridor. So a mixed bag is what I'm calling the forecast.
If we're going to do that, just do the snow. I mean,
just focus on Saturday, where it's going to be almost 50.
All right, I'll focus on that. Shorts for everyone.
Exactly.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it. There are new questions this morning about airport security after the return of a notorious repeat stowaway. Svetlana Dali made her way on another flight on Wednesday to Europe without a boarding pass or ID. And it was all caught on camera. This is the same woman who snuck onto a flight to Paris back in 2024. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello joins us now. Tom, this is definitely raising some serious security concerns, isn't it?
Absolutely, because if she could do this, then how many other people have succeeded in doing this, getting on a plane, or who else might try? You know, nearly 25 years after 9/11, terrorism remains a constant threat.
This time it happened at Newark. Aviation sources say the woman in black is Svetlana Dali, jumping in front of other passengers so she can squeeze past the United Airlines gate agent and onto Wednesday night's flight to Milan, Italy, once again without an ID or boarding pass. This photo shows her on board over the Atlantic when flight attendants realized something wasn't right. So how did she get past the TSA and airline agents?
She basically looks like everybody's grandmother.
nobody just pays a lot of attention because she has some sort of tendency to blend right into the crowd.
Asylum against United States.
This was Dolly in 2024 after being discovered as a stowaway in the lavatory on a Delta flight from JFK to Paris. Video captured her slipping past the TSA ID check, though going through the metal detector, and then squeezing past a Delta gate agent. She was arrested and sent back to New York.
Then you got there, you don't have a ticket, and then what did you do next?
I got in line and I passed the check.
She was convicted and sentenced to time served. Court documents reveal that she's also been discovered in a restricted area in Miami and in Hartford, where she tried to board a JetBlue flight. Now another stowaway attempt on another international flight. Security pros say it raises serious concerns for the TSA and the airlines.
Are you surprised this has happened yet again?
I am. I definitely am. The problem with this happening again is we don't know how often it's happened with other people as well who've somehow managed to slip through the system.
So sources tell us that Dolly pretended that she couldn't speak or hear while she was on that plane to Italy, and then once she arrived, she requested asylum and then seemed to disappear. The TSA says it is investigating how she ever got through the TSA checkpoint at Newark, and United Airlines says it's also investigating and working with U.S. authorities. But, Joe, yet again, and if she can do it, who else could?
And that is why it is raising so many serious questions about this, right,
Yep.
Tom? Appreciate your reporting.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Much more to come on this Friday edition of Morning News Now, including Americans mounting frustration over all those surveys, texts, emails bombarding customers. It's a feedback frenzy, and folks are getting fed up. First, though, after the break, a dramatic high-altitude rescue caught on camera out in California. The pair of friends who just happened to be in the right place, right time. It's up next. Welcome back. The U.S. government is now responding to reports the U.S. military used a laser to shoot down a Customs and Border Protection drone in Texas yesterday. This morning, federal agencies like the FAA and the Pentagon are speaking out amid new backlash from lawmakers. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler joins us from Dallas with more on this. Ryan, good morning.
Well, Joe, good morning. We're seeing strong words of concern and condemnation from Washington, D.C., all the way to West Texas, where this is now the second time this month we've seen an apparent gap in communication between federal agencies lead to an abrupt closure of airspace. This morning, new calls for safety and a shutdown in the Texas skies after the U.S. military reportedly shot down a drone from another branch of the U.S. government. The New York Times reporting, according to 4 sources, that the Defense Department used a high-energy laser to target the drone, which the Times writes actually belonged to the Department of Homeland Security. The government just saying the military responded to a, quote, seemingly threatening unmanned aerial system operating within military airspace.
This is very alarming. There are so many questions.
The FAA closing airspace around the Fort Hancock area, a small Texas town on the Mexico border. The incident coming just weeks after another drone incident that closed down a larger airspace around El Paso, delaying commercial flights.
So the airport's totally closed? Apparently.
When Customs and Border Patrol used a laser to shoot down objects that were later identified as party balloons, though the administration first said it had targeted a Mexican cartel drone. That airspace closure was initially set for 10 days, but ultimately only lasted a few hours.
As far as the FAA is concerned, it's all about safety. They need to know what the military is doing in the airspace.
The lack of communication between Homeland Security officials and aviation authorities raising questions.
It just seems to me that we have a real problem of coordination.
Transportation Secretary Duffy defending the FAA's response.
No, I don't think there's a lack of communication.
Now, Democrats again sounding the alarm over yesterday's incident. Lawmakers writing in a joint statement, "Our heads are exploding over the news," and calling it, quote, incompetence. So what does this mean for travelers today? Well, in terms of commercial airline cancellations or delays, not nearly the impact that we saw a few weeks ago in El Paso. This is an incredibly isolated part of the country, and officials say there were no commercial jets in the region at the time.
Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you. Now to an amazing rescue in the deep snow of California's high Sierra Mountains. Video captured two friends saving a skier's life after stumbling upon him buried in near whiteout conditions. That man was saved just a day after 9 skiers died in a nearby avalanche north of Lake Tahoe. NBC News national correspondent Morgan Chesky joins us with more on the daring rescue, which was caught on camera. Morgan, good morning.
And Joe, good morning. And talk about being at the right place at the absolute right time here. These two skiers had driven more than 7 hours to take part in that epic snowfall in that Lake Tahoe region. But as they were going down that mountain, their powder day cut short when they glimpsed something sticking out of the snow.
Near Lake Tahoe, a frantic struggle to save a man's life.
You okay? Oh, you okay? Hold on for a second.
Oh. Carson Schmidt and friend Eric Masuda digging through deep snow to reach a stranger, buried and barely able to breathe.
Can you get his skis off, dude? Oh. You okay?
The avid skiers shredding through fresh powder at Palisades Lake Tahoe when Schmidt did a double take.
Carson noticed them. Thankfully, I could barely see the ski tip sticking out, and the snow was so soft.
The skier trapped upside down. The two friends teaming up, almost sliding in themselves in snow that felt closer to quicksand.
Yeah, it seemed like the more he struggled, the deeper he sank because the snow was bottomless.
The skier had fallen on his back and simply sunk, with snow locking his arms in place.
What were the first words you heard from this trapped skier?
His first words were all he wanted to find was his wife.
Following a series of epic snowfalls out west, rescuers have responded to multiple tragic accidents, including the avalanche that killed 9 in Tahoe last week, and some close calls this week. Stunning video showing a skier rescued at Big Bear. As for Carson and Eric,
how does it feel knowing that you two very well saved a life?
It feels really good, but it's the community, you know, everybody's got each other out there.
And Carson and Eric tell me that after they were able to get that man out of the snow, he was able to make it down the mountain under his own power, refusing help from ski patrol, hoping to get reconnected with his wife that had joined him on that day. In the meantime, Palisades Tahoe stressing here, Joe, that this was no avalanche. This man had not fallen into one of those tree wells that can be so incredibly dangerous, which they say just underlines the fact that when you have this much snowfall in such a short amount of time, there is still absolutely an inherent risk. Joe?
Glad that guy's okay, and those guys were there to rescue him. All right, Morgan, thank you so much. Coming up, a futuristic new era for the MLB is here just as spring training starts to heat up. How players and fans are reacting to those robo-umpires making their official league debut this season. That's next. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with an update on whether ICE agents will be at polling places in November's midterm elections. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us with more. John, good morning.
Hey, Joe, when you go to vote this year, ICE won't be there. At least that's what a top Homeland Security official said this week on a call with state election chiefs. Heather Honey ridiculed the idea, calling it, quote, disinformation. There will be no ICE presence at polling locations, she insisted. Not everyone on the call was sold, though. Arizona's Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, a Democrat, remembers DHS's new election integrity chief from her role in questioning the 2020 results in his state. He said Heather Honey is an election denier with zero integrity. Some Democrats say they fear that President Trump will deploy federal agents to polling places to intimidate voters. Trump wants Congress to pass a federal voter ID law, but the House-passed Save America Act is stuck in the Senate. Trump put pressure on Majority Leader John Thune to unstick it during his State of the Union address. And Republican activists are clamoring for Thune to force a talking filibuster, basically to go out there and make sure that senators have to keep talking to have that filibuster. The belief is that would break down Democratic opposition over time. But Republican leaders warn that it could backfire. It takes just one member of the minority party at a time to keep talking, and they can hand off that mic like a relay team. But for majority Republicans, nearly all of them have to be on hand and in line to defend against amendments. And Thune told reporters the rest of the agenda would be put at risk with the talking filibuster. Everything else Republicans want to do is, quote, harder once you're in the throes of a talking filibuster, he said. Some good news for Trump, though, on the ballroom front, the $400 million White House pet project. It won another boost from a federal judge Thursday. That judge, Richard Leon, he said the National Trust for Historic Preservation was using a, quote, ragtag group of theories to make its case against the ballroom. Judge Leon told the preservation group that it could reformulate its request for an injunction. But for now, the ballroom project waltzes on. Joe?
All right, John, thank you so much. Baseball spring training is now in full swing, and this season the major leagues are officially introducing the automated ball strike challenge system to the game. That means for the first time in Major League Baseball, players will now have the opportunity to challenge the umpire's call after a pitch. Whether it's a ball or a strike, some of those potentially game-changing moments will be judged by what's being called a robot umpire. Senior baseball writer for The Athletic, Keith Law, joins us for more on this change to the MLB. Keith, good morning. This is not the first time we've seen this system used in professional baseball, tested during spring training last year. We've seen it in the minors for a little bit. Give us a reminder exactly how this works and the rules that are in place here, because it's not like you can challenge every single ball and strike.
Correct. Each team will get 2 challenges for regulation. For the first 9 innings, they can get additional challenges. In the extra innings, the pitches can only be challenged by the pitcher, the batter, or the catcher. Nobody else, not even the manager, can do so. And they do so by tapping their head, their helmet. They're allowed to also say, I want to challenge that. But the visual sign is the cue, at which point the umpire will step out and say the catcher or the batter has challenged the call. It takes a few seconds. They put a graphic up on the scoreboard, which visualizes the information from the automatic system and shows whether the pitch was a ball or a strike. If the challenge is correct, the team keeps the challenge and can use it again later in the game. If the challenge is incorrect, then they lose that one of their 2 challenges.
Clearly, we've been easing into this, what many see as something that's an inevitable part of the game. But doing it now, how important does that make spring training this year so teams can adapt to this?
I do. I think there is a big adjustment, and I've seen that a lot in AAA, in my own personal scouting, and in the Arizona Fall League, where they have used it. They've been sort of increasing its use over the last few years. It is a change. It's a change for pitchers, I think, in particular, because they may be used to getting that call that's a little bit off of either side of the plate, or particularly up top. I think that's where we're going to see a big effect. And so suddenly a lot of those pitches they've been used to getting as strikes become balls, and it's going to have to change their entire approach, particularly for pitchers who tend to live on the edges of the strike zone. For hitters, it is also an adjustment, but I do think this ends up working in their favor. And we have seen in AAA walk rates increased once they started using the challenge system a couple of years ago.
Interesting. I know there'll be plenty of stats taking a look at what happens here. I'm an old basketball referee, so I kind of like the human element of the game, the room for error and that type of thing. But just overall, how are fans feeling about this? Do they think it's a good move? Are they skeptical about it?
I'll tell you, my experience in person at ballparks where they've used the challenge system is overwhelmingly positive. Fans get very into watching the pitch come in, and they'll cheer if the umpire's right. They'll react to it. It adds a little bit of interest to what would otherwise be pretty dry. Think of how instant replay works. It's generally not that exciting. You're sitting around kind of twiddling your thumbs, waiting to hear the results. Here they've added a little graphic that makes it more interesting and makes you feel like you're seeing what the umpire saw. So I think where we are now, I'd like to see it increased over time, but where we are now is pretty good, and fans are going to like it.
I feel like baseball has done just so much in recent years just to make the game more enjoyable, especially if you're there in person, to keep it moving. I mean, real quick here, how does the league, does it think this could be the next step in just helping to grow the game?
They do, and particularly by getting more balls hit into play. The biggest problem we see with the on-field product now, too many strikeouts, too many home runs. Well, too many home runs at the expense of balls hit into play. We want runners on base. We want fielders doing things. We want throws. We want stolen bases. We want more action on the field. And by reducing, hopefully, the number of walks, we will see more hitters, pitchers having to work in the strike zone, more hitters putting the ball in play. We get more of that traffic on the bases.
Cool. Keith, good to have you with us this morning. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, how are we doing? It's a simple, relatively harmless question, but turns out it's really starting to grind the gears of some American consumers. So what's really behind the feedback frenzy that's got a whole lot of companies, big and small, asking customers for much more than their 2 cents? We'll dig in next on Morning News Now. We're back with a development in the battle between the Pentagon and AI company Anthropic. The company's CEO said yesterday it cannot agree to the Defense Department's demands to use Claude AI systems for surveillance and autonomous weapons. In a statement, the CEO said that these demands are, quote, inherently contradictory, and his company, quote, cannot in good conscience accede to their request. This comes after a senior Pentagon official told NBC News that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has issued an ultimatum to the company: allow the AI program to be used for all legal military purposes or be forced to cooperate. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News AI fellow Jared Perlow. So bring us up to speed here. What exactly does the Department of Defense want this for, and what are some of the concerns that the AI giant has about this?
So this disagreement has been brewing ever since a January 9th memo that Pete Hegseth sent to all senior Pentagon leadership about how to unleash AI for military superiority. So the Pentagon wants to use, as you mentioned, AI for all lawful military purposes. Now, that sounds pretty innocuous at face value, but there are certainly some situations, or there could be some situations in which a military use might go beyond what an individual AI vendor, an AI company wants their system to be used for, according to their own usage policies. So that's exactly what's happening here. As you mentioned, there are 2 key red lines that Anthropic does not want to cross: using its AI systems, often called Claude, for domestic mass surveillance or for directly controlling lethal autonomous weapons. Now, Dario Amodei said that they're going to stick to their guns in this ultimatum. So with this letter that he released last night, he said that they're not going to budge. But that was responded to at 9:30 p.m. last night by Undersecretary of Defense Emil Michael, who said, quote, "It's a shame that Dario Amodei is a liar and has a God complex. He wants nothing more than to try to personally control the U.S. military." Of course, that came after, in his essay, Dario Amodei wrote that Anthropic understands the Department of War, not private companies, makes military decisions. So that's where we stand this morning.
You broke the news on Wednesday that Anthropic said the Defense Department could use the AI systems for cyber defense. Why is the Pentagon pushing for more?
Yeah, so I think a key thing to understand here is that Anthropic wants to work with the Pentagon. They're an enterprise-focused company, first and foremost. And in the essay last night, Dario Amodei says that he thinks AI should play a pivotal role in ensuring that democracies flourish, even in military usages. So we broke the news, as you mentioned, that Anthropic, in a meeting in December, allowed the Pentagon to use its AI systems for cyber defense and also missile defense, which sounds very Skynet almost, you know. But even that was not enough for the Pentagon. And so it's unusual that this is played out so publicly, too. We had some senators weigh in yesterday say this is the sort of thing that usually takes place behind closed doors.
So the Pentagon is now giving Anthropic a deadline. It's 5:01 p.m. today to, quote, get on board with the Department of War. What happens if that doesn't happen? I think a lot of people are thinking, like, wait, can't this company do what it wants? Why does the Department of Defense tell it what to do?
Exactly. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways this could play out, and we're going to be tracking it throughout the day. One is that they come to an agreement, happily ever after. Anthropic says that they're continuing good faith negotiations. Option 2 is that they simply don't renew or sign a new contract because there's nothing that says, as of now, that Anthropic has to do business with the government. Option 3 is that because the Pentagon so enjoys using Anthropic systems, that they either force Anthropic to comply or label them as supply chain risk and cut off their business with the Pentagon.
All right, we'll see what happens. Deadline today. Jared, thank you so much. Some big money news now. Netflix walking away from negotiations to buy up Warner Brothers Discovery. NBC News business and economy reporter Allie Canal has your Money Minute. Allie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. Netflix taking itself out of this back and forth bidding war with Paramount Skydance for Warner Brothers Discovery. This coming after WBD's board called Paramount's latest $31 a share offer to purchase the entire company superior. Netflix, which just wanted WBD's streaming and studio assets, said that the higher price was no longer financially attractive, leaving Paramount as the last man standing. Still, any deal now must go through shareholder and regulatory approval. And in tech news, Google is leveling up its popular AI imaging tool. The company just launched Nano Banana 2, the update promising faster, more accurate image and text generation. It's the latest in the AI image race as competition heats up from ChatGPT parent OpenAI and Adobe. And finally, started from the bottom, now we here, but only in Canada. McDonald's is teaming up with Drake for a Canada-only late-night meal. Customers can choose between a McDouble or a junior chicken sandwich, pair with some poutine fries, and a blue raspberry-flavored Night Sprite. It's the latest example of McDonald's testing buzzy new collaborations internationally before bringing them to the U.S. We also know McDonald's loves their celebrity partnerships, and Drake is from Canada, so not totally surprising to see this be a Canadian exclusive, but hopefully soon we can enjoy that as well.
I would love to see poutine here.
Yeah,
in
I
America. Agree. Probably not going to happen, but hey, you can hope.
You
right?
never know. Maybe McDonald's will surprise us.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, Allie. Appreciate it. Well, speaking of feedback, these days we're getting asked to give feedback on just about everything, from the stuff we buy to the meals we eat, even doctor's appointments. Well, now an NPR story has people talking about how these requests have exploded in recent years, with technology making it easier than ever for companies to bombard you with texts and emails. For many consumers, it's exhausting, but for many companies, it's necessary.
I'm really tired of it.
There's no shortage of feedback.
I'm not doing the survey.
About feedback.
My doctor's appointment has sent me 3 requests for a survey on how they're doing. And I just want to be like, you were doing great until you started annoying me.
The surveys are ceaseless. Texts and emails asking, how was your purchase? Your return? Was your delivery good? Your train ride smooth? Your salad tasty? SNL poked fun at the trend.
To participate in a brief 200-question survey after this call, say, I do not wish to participate.
I do not wish to participate. Oh, wait, no.
Even the doctor drama The Pit had its finger on the pulse of all these surveys.
Our goal is 36% very satisfied with their care. Your department is at 8%. Do you know how likely patients are to recommend this hospital?
This is an emergency department, not a Taco Bell.
About a year ago, Good Company Donuts put a QR code by the register at all 4 locations in the Virginia, D.C. area, asking customers to rate their experience.
It's really important. People find us based on our review rating.
You really need to seek out reviews, because the more you get, the more it can maybe attract business.
Exactly.
Even though reviews often measure the extremes, the awesome and the awful, experts say these days consumers expect them, thanks in part to Amazon, which rates everything. One survey found 97% of consumers read reviews when considering purchases. The customers are annoyed with all the requests for feedback, and yet they rely on them, don't they?
Exactly. So it's a catch-22 to have that information out there. We have to be willing to participate, and sometimes it gets exhausting with all the requests to provide so much feedback.
Andrea Flynn, a professor at the University of San Diego, studies customer satisfaction. Her research finds the feedback frenzy could be reaching a tipping point.
Customers who received frequent requests to give feedback or provide reviews started to slow down how often they make purchases from a company.
It's why Good Company Donuts leaves it up to customers to scan that QR code, and above all, prefers good old-fashioned face-to-face feedback.
So the personal conversations are the way to go. You're going to get a faster resolution to any issue you have. We could just skip the whole online thing completely.
Professor Flynn advises businesses to maybe be more selective, not seek feedback after every interaction with a customer. She thinks at heart companies really do take that feedback into consideration and look for ways to improve. But on top of that, these days, companies really need those reviews to stand out in the crowd. In honor of Black History Month, we are getting a behind-the-scenes look at Florida's very first Black-owned brewery. And its name might surprise you, since it's inspired by a past symbol of segregation. NBC's Priscilla Thompson spoke to the owner, who said he wanted to change the meaning of this symbol and help heal his community.
Inside Green Bench Brewing Company in St. Petersburg, Florida, locals and tourists from all walks of life gather over a cold beer. Much like in the early 1900s, when thousands of green benches lined downtown, inviting people to sit and make a friend, unless you were Black.
What did these benches mean to people here in the 1900s?
So in the early 1900s, the white community could absolutely sit on these, and what it meant was community. However, the African-American community, it was an unwritten rule, you could not sit on the green benches.
To this day, for some, the benches are a painful reminder of a segregationist past. But brewery co-owner Chris Johnson, who grew up in Memphis, sees something else.
You, as a biracial man, as a black man, chose to name your brewery after a once segregationist symbol. Why?
So my background, obviously, as you mentioned, growing up biracial in Memphis, Tennessee, meant listening to the black men in my life and women talk about what they had been through to get to where we are today. That Dr. King was assassinated in our city, that the Lorraine Motel looks exactly like it did the day that he died. And the purpose of that is so that we can remember what we've been through to get to where we are currently.
Remembering.
So this is one of the green benches.
This is one of the ones we have on site.
And providing a safe space to sit and share.
I think it's more valuable to face it. I think it's more valuable to sit here. I think it's more valuable to have these conversations and to let other people, or give other people rather, an opportunity to understand your experience and understand how you feel rather than erasing it.
The beer helps too.
These are our fermenters, so all our beer ferments in here. This is our walk-in cooler.
Wow. All of these are on tap?
Yes, so we have 15 here. The beer is great. You know, the bench light, it's an easy drinking beer.
While not all patrons know the history, the essence of the bench's original promise, community, is now felt by all.
I think they kind of took that power back and made it like a good thing now.
People of all walks of life come here.
Why do you like it here?
The atmosphere, the hospitality, you can feel it. It's more than just a bill.
The green benches were built for community as a vessel for people to enjoy our beautiful city, right? And people and neighbors. I think that we are closer to that now than we've ever been.
Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
All right, coming up, we finally made it to Friday, and yes, that can mean only one thing here on Morning News Now. We're going to take you to Hollywood for the latest and greatest from the world of entertainment, just in time for your weekend, and who better to share some early morning popcorn with than our very own Kay Ingram. She has got your full rundown. That is coming up next. Finally this hour, it's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't miss list, a rundown of the movies, the music, the shows you need to see and hear this week. Joining us is NBC New York digital reporter Kay Ingram. Good to have you with us. So let's start off in the theaters with horror. Scream 7.
It's back.
Neve Campbell's back because she wasn't in 6. What can we expect with this one?
Well, yes, our original Scream Queen is back. She was with the franchise from the very beginning, just like you mentioned. Pay dispute was why she wasn't in the last one, but fans are so excited to have her back. Now, I will say there are definitely some critics that are kind of like on the fence about whether or not this installment is going to be good. You know, like we're excited about, obviously, you know, our girl is back, but will it hold up? Will it meet the mark? And some folks aren't sure. And so essentially, you know, we've got, of course, our girl is back, but now instead of Ghostface going after strangers, he's coming after her daughter. So that's kind of the theme this year, right? The legacy.
So it's personal now.
It's personal, I know, but she is not afraid. She is not going anywhere. And so essentially, you know, there's a lot of talk about whether or not this will live up to the hype. People love their Scream franchise movies. You know, it's done $900 million in the box office worldwide, but will it hold up? We don't know. TBD.
But fans will check it out, I think, no matter what.
Absolutely, yes.
Something we know is getting good reviews so far from critics, from fans, is Baz Luhrmann's epic Elvis Presley in concert. It's being called, quote, a new cinematic experience. We know Baz has been going down this sort of Elvis rabbit hole for a few years now, so no surprise this would be good.
Exactly. So after the 2022 biopic, right, essentially, and I love this part, he hears these rumors about this footage that's sitting in a Kansas salt mine. And essentially, it's unseen footage of Elvis that no one has seen before. We're getting personal sound bites with him. He's at the height of his career. And that's where this kind of movie, because it's not really a traditional documentary, it's a cinematic experience, concert experience.
It has to be an experience now.
Always immersive, right? That's like the plug line. But no, this brings us to, you know, the height of his career when he's in Vegas. It's the late 60s, early 70s. And so we're hearing from him in this footage, you know, what it's like being at the height of his career. How is it, you know, juggling Hollywood, being this huge, famous superstar? And so we're getting a bit of that. We're getting unseen footage. And Baz, you know, he loves the Elvis Presley comeback. So.
We've got 2 minutes left, so we want to get through a bunch of things. If you're a music fan, there's something if you're staying inside Man on the Run about Paul McCartney right after the Beatles.
Yes. So A lot of folks this is not Beatlemania. This is his life after the Beatles. We're getting more on, his love and relationship. We're getting more on what it was like to, essentially leave this band and figure out his career, his love life, of course, the Wings, how that was formed, his relationship with John Lennon, more unseen footage. So everything you could want and more if you wanted to know how Paul became Paul.
Music lovers get a little bit of everything this week.
Yes.
Okay, Scrubs. These are not reruns. It is back. New episodes.
Back. Yes, we got a Scrubs revival. A lot of the OG cast members. Sacred Heart Hospital's open again. We've got the list goes on. Zach Braff, Donald Faison, Sarah Clark, and so a lot of the OGs, but they're not the interns we saw many years ago. No, they're now seasoned, and they're mentoring this new generation. So it's like this modern hospital. They're trying to figure it out. You've got Gen Z. You got to throw them in the mix, but folks are excited to see Scrubs back.
I'm excited to see that back too. All right, reality TV fans, we got to give you something. House of Villains returning to Peacock. These are the people we love to hate in reality TV.
Tiffany New York Pollard, people, I'm obsessed. She's going to be in it. Tom Sandoval's going to be in it. Just think of all of the infamous reality TV villains under one house. It's a competition. 10 castmates. They're trying to win cash, but also win the title of the most America's super villain. So curious to see a lot of drama, a lot of memes.
Let's see who wins Best of the Worst. Finally, Bruno Mars out with a new album, The Romantic. Everyone's been waiting for this. What should we know?
We should know that it's been 10 years, and he's giving us 9 tracks. So almost one for every year he's been gone. Very soulful. We've got I Just Might. That's the lead single. It's already charted. #1 in its debut. We're getting love. We're getting romance. We're getting soul vibe, disco. He's giving it all to us. And so I hope folks are ready to start listening before he goes on tour in April. I know I will be. So it should be good.
Thank you so much. Lots to cover this morning. We got through all of it. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. But don't go anywhere. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.